All right, Carintha, can you just speak up so we can test your sound real quick?
Hi.
Hey, okay, great. So we will go ahead and get started then. So our presenters today are Valerie Kolb, who's the Director of Events and Meetings at the Housing Alliance of Pennsylvania, and Carintha Cadogan, the Senior Project Manager at Jonathan Rose Companies and member of the Women in Housing and Finance PA. So with that, I'll turn it over to Val to get started.
Okay, great. Good afternoon. Well, thank you, LaVonna, for the introduction and for all of you that have joined this call. We are very excited to kick off the planning for this year's 15th Annual Homes Within Reach Conference. Just a little bit about the Housing Alliance, although most of you are already aware of our work. The Housing Alliance is an advocacy and education organization. We are the common voice for policies, practices, and resources to ensure that all Pennsylvanians, especially those with low incomes, have access to safe, decent, and affordable homes. And our Homes Within Reach Conference is our biggest fundraiser, with the unrestricted dollars raised through our sponsors and exhibitors, enabling us to do our most important advocacy work across the state all year long. So this year is a special one as it marks the 15th anniversary of Homes Within Reach. Our conferences provide opportunities for service providers, housing professionals, community builders, and others to network, learn, share ideas, and make connections. It's a place for attendees to renew and recharge from the challenging and rewarding work in their communities. We aim to build knowledge within the housing industry and community by increasing awareness of creative strategies that can be replicated across PA and beyond. So this year's conference will be held November 18th through 20th, and once again will be at the Hilton Harrisburg. So please make sure everyone marks their calendar for that. Okay. Before I continue, I'd just like to say that we are so thankful to our chair of the program committee, Dina Schlossberg, the deputy director at the Regional Housing Legal Services, and our new vice chair, Chris Paul, executive vice president of development at Diamond & Associates, who have stepped up to lead our program committee this year and guide us in the important work in helping to choose quality content for our event. We are also appreciative of all the volunteer committee members and their support over the years. And finally, we are grateful to all of our membership and those of you that share in our mission, and we are hopeful that you will continue your partnership with us. So today's webinar is on how to present at the Homes Within Reach Conference. And we strongly believe and we are committed to selecting presenters who represent diverse backgrounds. So we want to promote diversity of the presenters, whether it be age, ethnicity, gender, role within the industry, geographic representation, and so forth. In many different areas, we want to do that. We also want to encourage people who maybe have never submitted a proposal, folks that maybe are new to the conference, or even those that maybe have never submitted in the past, or they have submitted but they have never been accepted. So today our goal is to provide you with some tips and some guidelines that will help you along the way. Okay. Just to give you a little general information about this, the RFP will be online, so it's an online process. There will be an electronic form to complete through a SurveyMonkey link. This helps us keep track and gather all of them so none of them get missed. So everything will need to be done online through this electronic link, which will be sent out to everyone. Things to keep in mind for the workshops as you're contemplating what to submit on. All the workshops will be 75 minutes long. So there are approximately 50 workshops. We have 5 different time slots with about 10 workshops taking place at the same time. All of them are 75 minutes long. And the conference will once again have the same schedule of starting at lunchtime on Monday, and the workshops will be during either Monday afternoon, all afternoon, or they could be any time on Tuesday, November 19th. They could be in the morning or they could be in the afternoon. So just prepare for both of those days for them to be. And then we break down into tracks, and we just want to keep areas for people to consider. So I just want to go through some of our major areas, and then I'm just going to mention maybe a couple topics within some of these areas just to give you some ideas of maybe some of the workshops that were done in the past or maybe topics that we're looking for. But again, they're just some ideas, and there are many, many more. So raising the bar in development. So on the developer track, we're looking for workshops on the low-income housing tax credit, possibly passive house, RAD, opportunity zones, maybe energy efficiency, preservation, just to give you a few topics. For health and housing, some ideas, maybe the opioid crisis, medical legal partnerships, maybe healthy aging and housing, ending homelessness. That's one of our biggest tracks. There's coordinated entry, youth homelessness, rapid rehousing, housing first, maybe rural homelessness, landlord engagement, reentry strategies, and so on. The list is pretty endless, but I just wanted to give you mention some of those. Fighting blight and revitalizing Pennsylvania. These maybe would include such workshops on land banks, code enforcement, conservatorship, maybe some rural strategies or updates on some new tools. The next one, building capacity to advance change. This covers a wide array of topics, maybe some housing advocacy strategies, and really could be inclusive of many different things. And then homeownership and housing counseling as well. So again, this is not an exhaustive list, but I just wanted to mention some of our key areas. Additionally, we're seeking proposals that provide new data to attendees, and maybe they introduce new methods or concepts. They bridge sectors, and possibly we want to encourage participants to interact with and learn from each other. So we're very excited this year. We've come up with something new that we feel will be helpful to first-timers, as well as everyone participating and maybe people that have been coming for years. We've created an FAQ document, so frequently asked questions. So we're looking to try to explain and give people a heads up on some of the most common questions that we get asked when people call the office or send us emails. So it'll touch upon information related to proposal submission, the process after you get accepted, and also it'll just talk a lot about the different communications moving forward from now up through the conference itself. And this will be distributed with the RFP when we go live with that in a few weeks. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to send this out to all of you that are on the call early next week when the webinar goes out in the recording, just so you can get a head start of trying to understand the process and give you a little bit of a heads up for that. Okay, these are some key dates for everyone to remember. The call for presenters, the solicitation will open mid-March, so we're aiming for March 14th. And folks will have a full month to complete the RFP. So several reminders will go out. There'll be different power mails, communications, and please do not wait until the last minute. We have a hard and fast deadline, so we're giving people a full month to submit their proposal. And then it does take time to collate and organize all of these proposals before our in-person meeting. So we have a program committee of about 40 to 50 people that will be meeting in person on May 15th to review and to rank and to recommend back to the chairs and the staff which proposals they think are the best quality to make the best workshops for us. And then it does take, believe it or not, it takes a couple of months to sort all of this, prioritize, possibly merge workshops, and review with the chairs and the staff to ultimately make a final determination on what, as we envision the full program. So we anticipate people hearing back by the end of July on those proposals that were selected. So with that, I'll turn it over to Carintha.
Great. Hi, Val. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for putting this presentation together. I think it's just incredibly helpful. So thank you to you, the Homes Within Reach Conference and the Housing Alliance, and definitely Dina and Chris for realizing that this is so important. I actually remember pulling together my first presentation submission about 6 years ago, and I definitely remember feeling very intimidated. So I know that a webinar like this could have been very helpful to me. I guess one of the very first tips I would say is don't be intimidated, and definitely discuss your ideas or your intention with colleagues, your bosses, definitely Homes Within Reach, Val, or anyone else you might know who has presented in the past. For anyone interested in having a sidebar conversation, feel free to connect with me directly. I'd love to help. I would say this, the number one thing is carefully consider your topic. What do you want to teach? Is it something related to policy, construction, design, finance, property management, services? Who are you talking to? So, are they beginners, experts, bankers, supportive services providers? It's just really important that when considering your topic that you think through who will be in the room and what you would like to really share. Come up with a creative title. So, what you want to do is really come up with a salient point. So I definitely like active titles that start with verbs, for example, and keeping them as short as possible is also a pretty good tip. When writing up your description, as Val said, definitely do not do it the day before, do not do it the day of. That's a mistake that I'm sure a lot of people make, and one reason why their submission may not be competitive is that you just may not have given enough time to think through what you're writing, and therefore that it came across that you did it just before the deadline. So really describe in your description what you would like to get across, who you would like to speak to, and the result, how this workshop would benefit Homes Within Reach conference goers. Definitely name your panelists and think very carefully about the role and expertise that each of them bring. So you want to make sure that all of your bases are covered and that hopefully people are not, giving duplicative information and expertise. So if you already have a banker on your team, maybe you want a policy person on your team to kind of round out the topic. It really depends. You should also note that in naming panelists, the Housing Alliance really wants to get an idea of your total vision. However, we and they do look for you to be flexible because it's possible that the exact panelists may not be on your panel. Also, you should be aware that the Housing Alliance wants to see diversity and a variety of people on panels. So specifically, no more than one presenter per company. If you would like to be on the panel as a moderator, you should seek to have 2 or 3 other people on your panel that come from other companies and have diverse points of view. I think, as Val already stated, we really wanted to strive for diversity. So think of people who have not been panelists before. I mean, if you're sitting on this call and have actually presented many times before, think through, who you have not seen on panels in the past and reach out to them and find out, what their expertise is and interest. Next slide. And so I had said before, really know your target audience, know who's in the room. I think when presenting your description, stay away from jargon. So make sure that you spell out all acronyms and words and clearly state what your objective and takeaway is. Don't assume that the folks that are reading your description know what you mean. And I think that Val or, I would be very happy to review your description in advance, not necessarily to make a decision, but even just to give a little bit of feedback on whether or not we thought it was clear. If you are going to present a case study, make sure that it's replicable. I think that the Housing Alliance has seen people who would like to talk about a successful deal that they navigated or structured, or some particular program that works really well in their neck of the woods. And I'm sure that everyone would love to hear about it, but the goal of the Housing Alliance is really to teach things that can be taken on in other counties, jurisdictions, neighborhoods. And so you want to think about sources of funding, for example, that can be navigated in other parts of the state, or programs or pots of money. So make sure that it's something that other folks can use as a tool. Submissions that were not successful in past years. So for example, some people are unrealistic with naming who will join their panel. So for example, if you say that, the senator is coming, or the head of PHFA is going to sit on your panel, the chances are good that that's not considered realistic. Something that's clearly done, as I said before, in 5 minutes before the due date it does come across and probably will not be accepted. Poorly written. Definitely take time to review your writing and make sure that it's grammatically correct and clear. Like I said before, have someone in your office review it, send it to the Housing Alliance in advance just to make sure that it's clear. Panels that don't have any clear goals are definitely not going to be submitted. So with all of that said, be as clear and as thoughtful as possible. I would also note that you should stick to topics that are in your comfort zone. It doesn't mean that I'm not suggesting that you should be afraid. What I am saying, though, is think through your own experiences in the last 1 to 2, 3 years, and how those experiences might be relevant to other people in the industry. And I think you will find that you have something very unique and innovative and exciting to share with the rest of us. I hope that's helpful. You can move to the next. So I can jump in here. If your proposal is accepted, the Housing Alliance will definitely assist you by connecting you to other presenters. So for example, you may come up with a topic and you might say that your presenter number 1 is a property manager, your presenter number 2 is a banker or a tax credit equity provider or a lender, for example. But you may not have those people invited or named as of yet. The Housing Alliance will be more than happy to connect you with people who will be attending and frankly may have even presented a workshop very similar or in line with what you'd like to provide. And the Housing Alliance will participate in workshop planning calls. So in my own experience, Val and or Dina or Chris, for example, will join you and your potential panelists, really nail down the topic and the goal, and then really come through with an actual PowerPoint presentation, if applicable, of course, and sit in on 1 or 2 or as many as necessary phone calls to really make sure that your session is coherent, and also from a logistical standpoint that you have all of the equipment that you need in the room, such as projectors and screens.
Okay. Oops. All right, let me just go back to that.
Go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Thank you, Carintha. I just wanted to mention, I think we're just about ready to open the line up, and we'd love people to chime in either on their experiences or if they have any questions, for us, things that weren't covered. But I just did want to do a little plug. So we have 2 volunteer committees that are very key and instrumental in helping us pull this successful conference off every year. And actually, the kickoff calls just happen to be next week. So I just wanted to mention that all are welcome. Everyone's invited. If you kind of want to, have an insider's look and see how all this happens, we'd love to have, people from all over come and join these committees. So the program committee is what this call is about, in helping develop quality content and topics and keynotes and so forth for the conference. So that kickoff call is coming up on the 12th at 11 o'clock, and then we have the in-person meeting, as I mentioned, on May 15th. So if anyone on this call is interested in that, please let me know, and I'm happy to send you that calendar invite, and we're more than happy to have you participate. Also, we have our sponsorship committee, which is key to helping us with our exhibitors and sponsors. And we're excited to have Laura Northup from Mullen & Lonergan this year chair that. And we have a great group of about a dozen or so folks that will be meeting on March 14th at 1 o'clock for that call. And those calls occur every few weeks from now for several months as we get going. But it's a great opportunity if you want to be more engaged in helping in this conference take off. So I just wanted to mention that to everyone. So I think with that, LaVonna, if you can unmute the lines, and if we have questions, we're happy to answer them. And others, I do know, I think Chris Paul's on this call, as well as Blanca. If anyone wants to chime in with any of their own experience or expertise, that'd be great.
Sure. So if you want to unmute yourself to make a comment or ask a question, you can press *7. Or you can also type a question into the chat below, and I'm happy to read it for you. So again, to unmute yourself, you can press *7 on your own phone, or you can type something into the chat.
I wanted to share, LaVonna and Val, that Women in Housing and Finance in Pennsylvania is definitely a great resource. We are a networking group and are definitely very committed to professional development of women and women of color in the industry. And so especially are thankful for the Housing Alliance to see how important this is. And I know that I'm joined by Chris and Blanca and potentially other women in the network, and invite them to introduce themselves and have folks contact them.
Great. This is Blanca Ramirez. I'm with Hudson Housing Capital, and I've been on that program committee for quite some time with you, Val, and always enjoy the conversations. I think one thing that you may have both mentioned, though, when submitting a proposal is that sometimes an idea, as long as it's thought out and presented, and doesn't necessarily need to be attached to presenters. I feel like, in the past we've had some proposals and, suggestions were made of potential speakers, but also the program committee and others, and maybe you, Val, as well, have provided some suggestions on actual presenters on various topics. So I thought I'd just add that.
Definitely. Meaning if there's some great idea or there should be a workshop on a certain area, and maybe one person that would be good at speaking on that matter, but then you really don't know how to pull the other presenters in, or you're not quite sure who might be the expert on the other part of the state or something like that. But definitely, we would encourage you to write up the description, send it, title like this would be a great topic, and then we know people throughout the state and within the housing industry that we might know who would be like, oh, we definitely need to cover that. That's a gap that we didn't think about, and we'll find the right person to present on that. So yes, we don't want to discourage you if you don't know exactly who would be the best presenters for a certain topic. That's a great point.
Great, and we have a question. Sorry, just from the chat. I just wanted to read really quickly from Sarah. Sarah asked, at some point before the abstract due date, would you be able to provide data on past conference attendee profession sectors? For example, how many percentage of finance folks are there to help submitters narrow in on target audiences? Val, did we have data on that?
We do have a list of all the conference attendees, so we could take a look at the companies and see where they're from. Generally, the largest areas we find are those in the developers track. So whether they're, they're nonprofit, for-profit developers, bankers, realtors, those, and then the homeless sector with the providers and so forth. But I could dive deep into some of. We do have a new event software program that is allowing us to create different reports and pull different populations. I would just we'd have to investigate that, but to give a ballpark, probably an estimate.
Okay, thanks.
This is Chris Paul. I just wanted to speak up and give a little plug for WIFPA and note that we try to promote within our membership group the panels. We ask members to let us know if they're on a panel, and then we really try to show up at those panels and be friendly faces in the audience. So for those who are new to this, you can ask for extra support, and we can try to really make sure we're there, because I know that folks have mentioned that made it that much easier for them the first time they presented to be able to look out and say, oh, I see my friends, and they're smiling, and they're going to ask me easy questions, and this gives me some confidence. And we also, Corintha organizes a webinar series, and really the aim of that is, in addition to educating folks, is to say we have so much expertise within our ranks, let's hear from each other. And I know Corintha really encourages everyone to say, yeah, I do have something to share, and I can teach other people. So we really want to see at this conference, new and diverse faces on the panels.
That's exactly right, Chris. And I want to add to the answer from the previous question. So I think it's definitely good to know who's in the room. And I know I said more than once, know your audience. But I also want to say that your expertise and your work is definitely valid. And you might also share something that folks haven't thought about or touched on yet. So don't be afraid to give that information. You might touch on something new.
Yes. And this is Val. I just want to go back to that question as well, because I know I was generally speaking in terms of percentages of the type of folks that are coming to the conference. But if your workshop is selected, we provide you all the communications you need in terms of hearing back from us, and even as it gets closer, we tell you what room you're going to be in and how to register and so forth. But we actually, when people register for the conference, they select which workshops they're going to attend, and we provide about a week or so out from the conference a list of the names of the folks that are coming and the organization they're with. So if you are a presenter, you'll have an idea of the types of people, the audience that you will have specific to your workshop. So that's helpful. So it might not be helpful as you're thinking about the idea to propose, but in terms of if your workshop's accepted, you'll know exactly who's in the room that day, and you'll know also, are there 40 people or are there 140 people? So I think that always helps the presenters know what to expect beforehand.
All right, so I'll just remind everyone again, if you have a question, you can press *7 to unmute yourself, or you can type something into the chat. All right. I don't think we have any more questions. Did any of our presenters or anyone else want to give comments if you have presented before? Any final tips? All right.
This is Corintha. I think I would say don't be intimidated and have fun with it.
Definitely. Definitely we want to encourage all. We want to hear your ideas. Please feel free to reach out to any of us. We're happy to help. That's what we're here for. And just be on the lookout. Mid-March, in a few weeks, we'll be sending out that RFP link. And in the meantime, we'll follow up with a copy of this recording as well as the questions and answers document, which I think will I think you'll find it'll give you a lot of answers that maybe you didn't even think of yet, but they'll be very helpful to you as you're going forward. So, so I appreciate the Women in Housing Finance and your efforts, and with this great idea of having this call today. And Corintha, I thank you for co-presenting with me, and we look forward to this great conference coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Have
Bye-bye
a
now.
great weekend. Bye.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Please stand by.